We're ready? Okay, I call the May 15th meeting of the Union County Board of Equalization and Review into order. We are the 2024 Board of Equalization Review for Union County. We have been appointed by the county commissioners to hear any and all taxpayers with respect to concerns, complaints regarding the valuation of their property for tax purposes. The property owners appearing before the Board of Equalization Review have the right to a fair and equitable hearing. The Board of Equalization and Review has been charged with assuring that proper legal principles have been applied in a valuation dispute for tax purposes. Format of the hearing is the clerk calls the case and locates the property or explains the situation. Appellant presents his or her case. The assessor's office offers their defense. Both parties will be given opportunity to rebut and conclude. All questions from either party should be directed at the chair. Boards will rule on the case or table it and inform the taxpayer when it will be reopened. Taxpayers will be notified in writing of the board's decision. By statute, the burden of proof is on the taxpayer to demonstrate that the assessment is erroneous. Please make sure cell phones are turned off. Any questions? Let's start. Number one.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Hearing number one consists of three parcels. The first parcel is 06042207. The second parcel is 06042219. The third parcel is 06042285. Let it show that the taxpayer is not in attendance. The policy of the board has been when the taxpayer is not in attendance, that it is a no-show.
I remember that.
Okay. No show means
No show.
our valuation stands. Is that correct, Harold?
Need a motion, I think.
We need a motion.
Yeah,
Or do we want to discuss the individual aspects of this?
Well, it's kind of hard to when no one's here to support it.
It is.
I mean, from,
I'll say from this, it looks like the developer wasn't smart in what they did with placing kiosk and not making them part of the HOA or common areas is the issue.
and they'll have time to do it next year.
Yep, they get to change it before then.
I'll just make a motion that we leave the values as is, no change in value.
I'll second.
Got a second? Any other discussion? Hearing none, value stands. Thank you.
Okay, hearing number two is account number 622220. It's Cotton Street Senior Housing Limited Partnership. This is an exemption application not timely. Again, the appellant is not in attendance, so it's considered to be a no-show.
I hate it when people, they just say and waste our time if they don't, if they appeal and don't show at the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, if you allow me to ask the assessment coordinator a question.
I would say this, they did, looks like there is information in our package on this, correct?
Yes, sir. If you allow me to ask the assessment coordinator a question.
I will.
Travis, did the appellant want us to present the information on their behalf?
I don't, they didn't tell me that.
Sometimes, Mr. Chairman, the taxpayer will indicate that they will not be at the meeting.
Right.
And that they will ask for the board to review their information
And, yes,
in absence.
and opine upon
Yes.
it, based on the information they submitted in writing.
But it was our understanding that they were going to be here to present their information. It is always the taxpayer's responsibility to provide their evidence for the
Yep.
board to review
Yep,
and to show up at the meetings.
yes, it is.
I'll make a motion that we don't allow the exemption, based on the appellant not being here.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just a quick question for knowledge sakes, for future reference. When it indicates application not timely, what does that, I mean, obviously we can know they didn't get it on time, but for this purpose of this board, what does that mean?
What they have.
The timeliness of the application, you have to file the application during the annual listing period, which is the month of January, unless they have requested an extension. So they would have had to have had this application in by January 31st. When was it received, Rob?
We received March 29th.
It was not received until March 29th.
So based upon them not getting it in on time,
We can't accept it.
you can't, but
Only
you
the
still
board
send
can-
it,
the
you
board
still
can
send it to
accept
the
it.
board.
We still
The
send it to
board
the
can
board.
accept it if
Okay.
we decide
All
to
right.
accept it. They can't accept it because it's late. We can if we so choose.
Okay,
Typically, the board's policy on late applications has, the statute says for good cause.
Hardship or whatever you wish to
The
call it.
good cause, the way this board has interpreted that in the past, is either medical situation where the person responsible for it is hospitalized or military deployment. That's been the only typical acceptance for good cause. Now, that can be revisited at a later date if the board will set new rules next year, but you know, for this year and prior years, that has been the interpretation of that statute.
10-4. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlemen, any further discussion? Okay, I call the question. All those, and your motion was to deny.
Right.
Okay. All those in favor of denial, raise your hand. Okay. Motion is denied. Move on to the next one.
Hearing number 3 is account number 415276, Thomas Turf Incorporated. The request is to waive the late list penalty of $2,560.38, where it showed that the taxpayer is not in attendance.
Good morning.
Did the taxpayer correspond with you, I assume, I hope?
They have with
Okay.
myself and with Van, our
Good.
tax administrator. The taxpayer has always been in good standing. They've returned their listings timely each year prior. They were picked up for $1,208,927 in a discovery due to an audit that was conducted by Tax Management Associates. After reviewing the audit, we determined that $337,200 of that should not have had a penalty on it. We went back and revised the audit, revised the discovery, and now the taxpayer is asking to waive the late listing penalty. They never had a CPA
For that,
processing
was
for
it
them.
for the entire amount or just that portion?
Just that
The
portion.
300-odd thousand?
No.
No, the entire, the balance.
The late listing penalty is for $2,560.38. They're
Right.
asking that we waive the late listing penalty. They're not contesting the rest of the discovery.
Okay.
Was this on equipment?
Machinery and equipment, there was some furniture and fixtures and computer software
Right.
as well.
Okay. And no CPA, they do this on their own?
They were doing it on their
their
own
own, right.
previously,
Yeah.
yes. So there were some items that were picked up during the discovery, during the audit, and then there were some that they had actually listed with us, but for some reason or not, it didn't have a value attached. So we added it, but the value didn't come across for a few years. So that's what the $337,000 was.
Okay. Have they discussed how they're going to remedy the situation going forward?
Going forward, yes, they're aware of what they should list going forward.
Until they add new equipment?
Yes, until they add new equipment, but they know that they have to report it.
Right. Anybody have any questions on this?
Clarify something?
Yeah.
It's been our position prior, if a little more leniency, if the taxpayer's doing this on their own and not having professional help, correct? Yeah.
It has
I
been.
just wanted to make sure, I was recalling that correctly.
You have a question, I
You
think.
know, I think his question, answered my question.
Okay. Any further questions? Somebody make a motion. I can't make a motion. So somebody make a motion on to either deny or approve the request for the waiving the late penalty.
I'll make the motion to approve
And I'll second
approve the waiver
Waiver,
of the penalty.
waiver, okay. Okay,
Jim,
any
second.
further discussion? You, second?
Yes.
Second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
it. All right.
Okay,
Thank you.
we are waived.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, the representative for Cotton Street Senior Housing has arrived.
Oh,
If you want to reopen that hearing, you will need to
I
have
think
a
we
motion to
should.
rescind the vote.
somebody make a
Yeah,
motion.
I'll make a motion that we rescind the vote.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now, which number are we back on, Cotton Street?
2.
Yeah, we're at hearing number 2. The account number is 622220, Cotton Street Senior Housing Limited Partnership.
Okay. Come forward and tell us your case, please.
Good morning.
Morning.
I assume you had parking problems like a lot of people do around here.
Yeah, I'm down the street, so I walk a couple blocks over. When, we recently took, changed ownership, during the renovation. And the lady that was put into that place to submit the application, she didn't know the procedure. And so that's why that was a mix-up with her submitting the application. She wasn't aware that she needed to do the application and resubmit it. They thought because they have other properties in North Carolina that they don't have to redo the application, that everything was good on this end. So
She wasn't aware she needed to
she
file with the
wasn't aware
county.
she needed to file again in this county
Yes.
because they thought it was approved for that time frame previously. So that was the reason for the late submission to filing for the property tax and everything.
So basically, when y'all got notice, y'all handled the situation as,
Right, when she was aware, recently, she made the adjustments to get the information submitted. But it was denied and, we had to.
okay. Y'all have any questions of the appellant?
I'm just trying to make sure I follow it. I mean, the ownership of the property changed on August 30th of 2021,
Correct.
and then the application for the exemption was submitted by that new owner,
It was submitted on November 30th.
right, okay. And then it was approved.
It was approved and then they thought it was good for the 4 years. And then it came back up that that we were supposed to
Reapply.
reapply. But they were under the impression that they didn't have to reapply.
Okay.
After that.
Okay.
And they have other properties like this in the state of North Carolina, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So is that a normal procedure of every year doing it? In the state of North Carolina, or is it just in Union
I
County?
think that's a question for them.
Okay,
Travis will speak to that when he.
Yeah. When
okay.
when it's his time, we'll let Travis answer that question, because I don't
Sounds
know
good.
the answer. Anything else you wish to add?
No, sir. No,
Okay.
really. It was just a miscommunication because the lady that came in was new and she didn't know the procedure.
Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else on the board have a question?
Outside of this, have you all been in good standing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see what the county has to say.
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, this application was submitted to us on March 29th, 2024. The deadline for them, since they did request an extension, was March the 15th. So we denied it because it wasn't timely. They did have exempt assets already. Back in 2021, when they acquired it, they did submit an application back then. So all of their assets were already exempt before they added these additional personal property items for 2024. So the reason why there's an application required in General Statute 282.1, 105, 282.1, it states that once the application has been approved, the owner does not need to file an application in subsequent years unless new or additional property is acquired. So since they acquired new property, they had to reapply, they had to apply on that new property.
I get
So
it.
that's why we had a tax bill, and that's why I had to apply again on that new property.
Right, okay. Does that explain it to y'all, the technicality of why they needed to reapply?
Yeah, and then on the taxpayers part of it, they've got a new person that oversees that wasn't aware that that's what he or she needed to do.
I think so.
Yeah.
That's how it looks. I agree.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
Thank you. Any further questions of anybody?
It sounds like an honest mistake,
Yes.
It
me
sounds
too.
like a,
so
I agree.
yeah.
I make a motion, what is this for? A penalty or late filing?
Are we
accept-
waiving?
Waiving?
Acceptance of a late application.
Acceptance of the late application.
Yeah, I make a motion, we accept the late application.
And I second that.
And you second it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of accepting the late application?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes.
I'm sorry, who was first and who was second?
Made the motion, second. And unanimous. Good job back there.
Alrighty, gentlemen, that concludes our hearing this morning. I'll pass it over to the tax administrator for any other business.
I have none for today. Do we have any appeals pending?
We have one appeal that came in yesterday. That's all we have outstanding right now. It has not been scheduled. I know that we have tax reps that came in.
We've had several commercial appeals that were filed by tax reps, but we've responded to them, so they have an appeal period to appeal to the board. I think most of them are probably no changed on our behalf because they didn't provide any information. So we'll see what they come back with. But if history proves itself, if history repeats itself, they'll probably drop it at that point, and we'll move on to fall. But as of right now, I think there was one decision from the last meeting that where you moved a house to another property, that we had to send that notice to the taxpayer so they have a chance to appeal, so we could hear back from that. Other than that, I think we're just about done until this fall.
So we don't know if there's gonna be a meeting in June or not.
I would say we more than likely have one more meeting.
One more meeting.
Because we do have one appeal for sure, and then we'll wrap up this tax rep either before billing or, I would say definitely before billing, because we sent out the letters, a week ago Monday. So they have 30 days. Yeah, hopefully we'll get that before the end of June. So I would say it'd probably be about the end of June that we'd have our last meeting.
End of June, okay.
Before fall. How does everybody's calendar look in June? I know we had some vacations coming up.
Yeah, we have things
Yeah.
scheduled. I guess the last one we put on our schedule, was the 12th. That
That's the
was
last
regularly
meeting.
scheduled.
Okay. And are you,
I'm going out of the country on the 5th and return on the 12th, but I won't make it in time.
No, seriously, down you will.
Yeah.
I won't make it in time for a 9 a.m. meeting, I'll say that. I'll be somewhere.
Probably still over the Atlantic.
Yep, in Atlanta.
Yeah.
That's where I'll be,
Yeah.
at the airport.
Okay, well, we'll see how everything goes.
Yep. The 5th would work technically for me. If
One
you-
of those 2 days will be our last meeting,
Yeah.
yeah.
I don't
Oh,
leave.
you're talking about June 5th
I don't
and
leave-
12th?
Either June 5th or June 12th will be the last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't leave
As long as
until
we
the
have a board
afternoon
meeting.
of the 5th. I leave on the afternoon of the 5th, get back on the 12th, so
Okay.
y'all figure it out or do it without me, one or the other. Okay. Anything else, Van? Anything else over here? We're good? Make a motion to adjourn?
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, motion. We're adjourned.
Okay.
Thank y'all for coming.
It's always good to have people here.
Brad, it was nice hearing from you.
Yeah.
Always.